Hello and welcome back for another solo board gaming video. My name is Shuffles. Today we're going to take a look at Slay the Spire, the board game. I've had a chance to play this one 3 times so far, once with Ironclad, once with Silent, and once with Defect. I've got another run loaded up for Defect later today, and I just wanted to give my kind of initial impressions on this. I've been playing it a lot. I plan to continue playing this one a lot, so I wanted to kind of talk about it and let you guys know what I think of it so far. And I'll come right out and say it. I think this is a fantastic board game so far. Absolutely loving it. I think it's perfect for solo play. And yeah, just really enjoying it so far. Now, is it going to be perfect for you? Maybe. We'll get to that in a little bit. So let me get into it. If you're familiar with this game already, you can skip this next bit. I'm just going to give an overview of what this game is. If you're not familiar with this game, this is Slay the Spire. This is a roguelike deck builder. It is based on a video game. It's very, very similar to the video game that it's based on. A roguelike, it's a video game term. It means you're going to be essentially going on a run through this game. You'll start from scratch. You start with a very basic deck of cards here, and you're going to use that to climb through this spire. You're going to get stronger and stronger as you kind of advance through the spire until you either get to the end and win or you die. So if you die along the way, you're back to square one. Your deck is back to the starter deck, and you'll have to do a new run. So that's essentially what a roguelike is, and that's what this game is going to be. And this is also a deck builder. So you're going to start with just kind of a basic deck of cards, and you're going to upgrade those along the way. So we've got, this is for the Defect, just a giant stack of card rewards here. So any of these could end up in your deck. You're going to be adding cards along the way. You'll be removing cards. Some of the bad ones you'll have a chance to get rid of. And you'll even be upgrading cards. So the character you choose is going to start with a deck of 10 or so cards. These are going to be basic cards to start out with. So you'll start with strikes and defends, kind of generic cards. These will do 1 damage. These will give you 1 block. And then there's also a couple cards in here that are unique to the character you're playing, like Dual Cast here, or Defect. You have an energy limit each turn. You start the game with 3. And if you want to play a card, you're just going to pay the energy cost on the card. So strike costs 1. We're going to pay 1 energy. We can play this strike, and that'll let us damage this small slime for 1. Once we decide not to play any more cards, or we're out of energy and can't play any more cards, then the enemies will get a turn, and they'll do what's printed on the card. So the small slime would attack us for 1. This acid slime, since we rolled a 4, would do or apply a weakened status effect to us. And then plays are going to go back and forth with you taking a turn and then the enemies until either you are dead or all the enemies have been cleared out. You're going to be fighting your way up through this spire here, all these intersecting paths. And along the way, you'll be fighting enemies like these. You also run into some question mark encounters, usually some sort of choice. Could really be anything. You're also going to hit some of these elite enemies, which are much more challenging but provide really good rewards. You'll hit campfires along the way. Campfires will let you heal or upgrade a card. And as you journey up the spire, you're going to be adding lots of cards, stronger cards and more interesting cards than what you start with. There's a huge deck of earnable cards for each of the characters. This is just Defect right here. So all kinds of cards in here. And you're also going to be earning gold as you defeat enemies. And you'll run into shops along the way that'll let you spend that gold on more cards, or one-time use potions, or relics, which work like kind of passive abilities. There are 3 acts in the game. This is what Act 1 looks like all set up. We've got our spire. You'll hit all these events on the way up, whichever path you choose. And at the end, there's a boss, and that'll be the case for all 3 acts. This is Act 1. There's 3 acts. If you make it to the end of Act 3 and defeat the boss at the end, you win the game. If you run out of health at any point during the game is over. You'll have to start a new run back with your starter deck. So this is Slay the Spire. I don't think you'll find a more faithful board game adaptation than this. What I have on the table here is what we've been playing on our screens for years. If you played the video game a bit, you're going to feel right at home playing this. There are minor differences in how enemies behave. I mentioned the dice roll, kind of determining what some of the enemies do. There's also differences in how relics trigger, like the two that I've got here. On this 4 roll, this relic will trigger and I'll get a block. Stuff like that. In the game, numbers have been scaled down to make the math easy. But this is essentially Slay the Spire, just in tabletop form. So what are my impressions of this game? I may have alluded to it in the intro. This is a good board game. It's really good. The deck building here is as good as it gets. I've played a lot of deck builders, Dominion, Eon's End, Friday, even in video games, Monster Train, Balatro. They're all good deck builders, but nothing has topped Slay the Spire. It's just incredible. And not only just the deck building in this game, but the Spire itself, as you're traveling up it, you're constantly presented with these interesting decisions to make, risk reward. You want to be aggressive in this game and take on elites because they have the best rewards. But they're also the hardest fights. So if you take on elite, you're risking, losing a big chunk of your health or having the game be over. Stuff like that. Campfires, you want to upgrade your cards. That's a big deal. It makes your deck stronger. But if you upgrade a card, you are foregoing healing for 3 health. So you're going to be weak for your next fights if you take that option. So just constantly presenting you with choices and interesting decisions to make, problems to solve. Different enemies behave differently. There's so much here, and there's so much replayability for this as well. I think this is phenomenal. I've not played it co-op yet, but just for solo alone, I think this is a fantastic game. So I know I've been heaping praise on this game so far. I do have 4 concerns I want to address. Clearly, they haven't dissuaded me from buying the game and loving it, but just because I love it doesn't mean this is a perfect game for you. So let's talk some concerns. Number 1 is the runtime. I think I've been averaging about 3 hours a run. That's just at solo play. If you're looking at this for a co-op experience, I would expect that number to be significantly higher, especially at 3 and 4 player counts. They did implement a nice save system between acts, and the acts are kind of a natural stopping point anyway. You have to tear down the board and replace all the enemies, all that stuff. So you do have the opportunity to save between acts, keep your progress, and then set it up next time you have time to play. I'm fortunate enough to have a dedicated space where I can just leave it out and play when I have time. But something to consider, it is a long game. I wouldn't expect to get this too much shorter than 3 hours, even solo. Maybe once you kind of get used to the systems, but long game. Concern number 2 is fiddliness. This game is inherently fiddly, especially compared to the video game. The video game would just do all the upkeep for you. In this game, you've got a small slime will come out, and you're going to dig through the summons deck here for the acid slime that goes with it. You've got little cubes everywhere that you're going to be using to keep track of enemy health and your own health and your energy. You have to remember to move this every time you play a card. So there's a lot going on. There's a decent amount of upkeep. I think they've done a pretty good job at making it manageable. It is, compared to the video game, this is extremely fiddly, but in board game terms, I think it's fine. It's probably on par with most other things in the genre. You do have a lot of other little tokens and stuff to keep track of as well. It's mostly the cubes, but there are some good things here as well. So in the video game, for example, with relics, they kind of they sit in the background and they do their thing passively. And sometimes you'll forget you even had a certain relic until it pops off. In this game, relics are kind of right there at the forefront. So every turn you'll start by rolling a little 6-sided dice, and that one roll determines what a lot of the enemies will do. And it also triggers a bunch of relics. So this 5 I just rolled is going to give me a shield. And when you get into the later game and you've got 10, 12 different relics, it's really fun trying to figure out which relic to trigger in which order, against which enemy. And you'll have card combos come out where maybe you can play a power and this relic triggers to give you energy, which lets you play more cards and draw more cards and stuff like that. And doing all this physically is really fun. So the upkeep side can be a lot, but just playing with this physically is a lot of fun. So number 3 concern is price. This game is not cheap. It is $100 for the standard edition. What you're seeing here is the collectors for $150, I think. I'll talk about collectors first because none of this stuff is necessary, but it's really cool. So it comes with all these, neoprene mats and these really nice coins, but you don't need any of this to play the game. So you can get it for $100 for the standard edition, and it has everything you need to play. It's definitely expensive, but I also think it's fair. There's something like 700 cards in the box. All the components are nice. And I think most importantly, this game lends itself to being played repeatedly. And there's tons of content in here. All those ascension levels, you're going to be challenged and entertained for a long time, I think. But price is definitely, obviously a factor at $100. This is not a cheap game. And that brings us to our 4th and final concern, I guess, is, and I've seen this question a lot in Reddit and Discord. Why get this game if the video game exists? And that's totally fair. I get it. The video game is phenomenal. It's $10. It takes an hour to do a run. It does all the upkeep for you. Yeah, if you're interested in the video game, absolutely go ahead and get it. It's also a great idea if you are thinking about dropping $100 on this game and you've not played the video game, just spend $10, and that's a great way to try it out. See if you like the systems before you dive in. Otherwise, I think it comes down to preference. The big difference with this game versus the video game is you can play cooperatively. So if you're interested in this for co-op, I think you've got a much easier decision to make. But for solo, it's going to come down to, do you see yourself playing this tabletop and enjoying it? Or is this something you might play a few times for the novelty of it, and then it goes back on the shelf and you're just back into the digital version? So I think that's something to consider. For me personally, I played the video game. I put 500 hours in. I beat Ascension 20 on 2 characters, and I don't see myself playing the video game again. It's been 2 years. I'll go back to digital when Slay the Spire 2 comes out, but right now I'm really enjoying rediscovering this game in a completely different format. So for me, that was worth it to get this game solo. And this is not something I'm going to shelf for the digital version, but clearly that's a valid concern. It's a huge price difference. If you have any interest at all in this game and you've not played it either version, absolutely get the video game. So yeah, if you don't have access to being able to play the video game, or you just like the tactile experience of playing board games, you want to limit screen time, whatever the reason is for preferring physical, I can't recommend this enough. This is a phenomenal deck builder, and I definitely recommend it solo or co-op. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll be back soon with more Slay the Spire and solo board gaming content. Thank you so much for watching.